the secret that destroys the prostate of millions of men. It doesn't show up in routine exams. Thousands only find out when it's already too late, when the prostate has become a ticking time bomb. I am Dr. Ana Esperanza, a physician specialized in men's health, and today I'm going to reveal the 5 hidden habits that are silently destroying your prostate without you even realizing it. Write in the comments right now. I want to know the 5 habits and prove that you're paying attention. Stay with me until the very end, because the last habit is the most forbidden one, and it might be the difference between a life of pain or a life of freedom. People often say that aging is inevitable, but what they never tell you is that suffering doesn't have to be. And yet most men live under the illusion that a quick annual checkup is enough to keep them safe. That false sense of security is nothing more than a paper shield, unable to withstand the silent fire slowly spreading inside the body. And that fire has a precise target, the prostate. This small, discreet gland records every choice, every neglect, like a secret diary written day after day. By the time it finally speaks, it is often already too late. Countless men have been blindsided by a sudden diagnosis. But I felt fine, they say. Of course, because the changes that destroy the prostate are slow, invisible, almost imperceptible. An inflammatory diet, a motionless body, chaotic hydration. Each of these blows may seem small, but together they are devastating. And the very first hidden habit, the one that opens the door, is found at the table. Picture a man of 65, retired, set in his ways. Breakfast is white bread with margarine. Lunch is processed meat. Dinner, late at night, is frozen pizza washed down with soda. Nothing extreme, he thinks. But what he doesn't see is that every bite is an inflammatory message etched into his cells. Science has already shown that such diets trigger systemic inflammation, and inflammation is the fertile ground where benign prostatic hyperplasia takes root, slowly paving the way to something far darker, cancer. The danger does not arrive in a single day. It accumulates in silence, like poison dripping into a glass, until it finally spills over. The first forbidden habit is the inflammatory diet. Refined flour, hidden sugars, fried foods, cured meats. Each one is another brick laid in the invisible prison closing in on your prostate. The trap is that they don't cause immediate pain. In fact, they bring pleasure, comfort, memories of home. But it is that very comfort that betrays you. While the man enjoys what he believes to be harmless, oxidation accelerates, hormones destabilize, cells begin to misbehave. The prostate, which should remain silent, becomes a weight pressing on the urethra, disrupting every part of daily life. Now imagine the psychological toll, waking up 3-4 times a night to urinate, feeling a persistent burn, never quite emptying the bladder. Many shrug and say, it's just age. But the truth is that a degenerative process has already taken root, and the most disturbing part is how rarely this link between diet and inflammation is mentioned in rushed consultations. Why? Because it's easier to write a prescription than to undo decades of bad habits. The conspiracy of silence thrives because men believe the disease appeared suddenly, when in fact it was built slowly, piece by piece. But the damage is not only physical, it leaks into a man's social life, his identity, his confidence. The man who wakes up repeatedly at night no longer sleeps beside his partner in peace. The man who feels the constant urge to urinate hesitates before leaving home, afraid he won't find a restroom in time. The grandfather avoids playing with his grandchildren, not out of fatigue, but out of shame. The husband hides his discomfort during intimacy, terrified of looking weak. And all of this begins with a plate of food, with choices so ordinary that nobody suspects they are turning the body into a ticking bomb. Here lies the most uncomfortable truth. Food is not just nourishment. It is information. Every ingredient sends a signal that your body deciphers. Tomatoes sprayed with pesticides. Vegetable oils refined and reused endlessly in restaurant kitchens. Sweets drowning in corn syrup. Each detail seems trivial, but together they form an engine working against you. And that engine does not stop. It grows stronger every day, feeding the inflammation gnawing at your prostate. Doctors rarely talk about this. campaigns only mention the prostate once a year, during Awareness Month, as if 30 days of slogans could erase decades of neglect. Meanwhile, industries continue to thrive, selling pills that ease symptoms without addressing causes, because it is not profitable to tell men that the very food they eat every day is slowly killing them. So the brutal question is this: are you, without even realizing it, feeding the very disease you fear most? It is uncomfortable to think about, but the discomfort may be the spark needed for change. This isn't about perfection. It's about breaking the toxic cycle. Studies show that men who swap processed meats for fresh protein, replace refined sugar with fruit, choose whole grains instead of fried foods, they not only reduce the symptoms of BPH, they also lower their markers of inflammation and risk of cancer. And yet, you rarely see this on the front page. It's as if someone wanted to keep it buried. Because simple habits don't generate billions. But don't think the battle ends on the plate. The body is a symphony, and diet is only the first violin. If you spend your days frozen in a chair, if you drink water at the wrong times, if you live under the lash of constant stress, the poison keeps advancing. The most frightening part is the feeling that no matter what you change, something is always slipping through your fingers. And it is through those cracks that the enemy grows stronger. The first habit showed that silent inflammation is like a fire smoldering under ash. But the real question is, what happens when that fire is fed more oxygen? What happens when daily routines, disguised as harmless, quietly amplify the flames? The next hidden habit is even more disturbing, because it does not hide on your plate. It hides in the way you live, in the stillness of your body, in the hours you surrender to immobility. The cruel irony is that many men believe they are protecting themselves, when in truth, they are tightening the noose. This second hidden habit is so common, so ordinary, that you would never suspect it. And once you discover it, you may finally understand that the greatest danger was never only in what you were eating, but in what you weren't doing, day after day. The second hidden habit is not in what you eat or drink, it's in what you fail to do. It wears the mask of comfort, disguises itself as normal, and slowly transforms your body into a trap. Modern life has turned men into prisoners of their own chairs. Hours spent hunched over screens, sunk into sofas, sitting at desks in endless meetings. It feels harmless, even restful, but it is slow-motion suffocation. Blood that should flow with strength to the pelvic region stagnates like water left to rot. Muscles meant to support the pelvis atrophy into silence. And while the man congratulates himself for taking it easy, his prostate is suffocating in a swamp of stillness. The trap is insidious because it does not hurt right away. It begins with whispers, a weaker stream, a subtle urgency, a lingering heaviness. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would push a man to sound the alarm. Yet with every hour of immobility, another link is forged in the chain. The prostate is not just inflamed by what you eat, it is strangled by what you don't move. What makes it more dangerous is the illusion of activity. Many men believe they are safe because they take occasional walks or climb a set of stairs now and then. But the body demands more. Not marathons, not crowded gyms, but precise, almost secret movements designed to wake up the forgotten muscles of the pelvis, to pump fresh blood into the region where it has been absent for too long. Movements as simple as lifting the pelvis against gravity, contracting and releasing hidden muscles, stretching tendons that have become rigid with neglect. They are small actions, but repeated consistently, they can reawaken a body sliding into decay. And yet few doctors ever mention them. Why? Because exercises are free. Pills are profitable. Imagine a man of 70 who believes he is active. He strolls slowly through the park, proud that he still walks. But he spends the rest of the day frozen in front of the television. His nights are broken by bathroom trips. His exams confirm the truth. His prostate keeps swelling. The problem is not that he never moves. The problem is that he moves the wrong way. He does not give his body what it needs. And because no one has ever told him, because no one ever will, his prison grows tighter. The third hidden habit pretends to be virtue: hydration. Everyone knows water is life, but few know how easily water can betray you. The common mistake is simple. hours without drinking, followed by gulps of water too late in the day. The body does not forgive this carelessness. The bladder fills at the wrong time. The prostate suffers under the pressure, and the night becomes a torment. A man lies down to rest, only to be dragged up again and again by an urgent signal from his body. He never enters deep sleep, and without deep sleep, the body never repairs itself. The next day he is tired, irritable, unbalanced. Cortisol rises, inflammation increases. The prostate suffers further. What seemed like a harmless routine has become a vicious cycle. But there is a darker truth. Not all water is innocent. In many cities, invisible contaminants flow through the pipes. Heavy metals, pesticide residues, even traces of hormones flushed into the system. What seems pure in the glass may in fact be laced with chaos. Sip after sip, day after day, the poison slips inside, planting seeds of inflammation where you least expect it. The prostate is one of its silent victims. The enemy does not always taste bitter. Sometimes it tastes like nothing at all. And then there is the mistake nearly every man makes: drinking too much, too late. They fill their bladder in the evening believing they are hydrating. But hydration at the wrong time is sabotage. The bladder swells as the man lies down. His night fractures into fragments. His body never enters the phases of true rest. Hormones that should rebalance remain in chaos. The immune system stays weak, and in this broken state, the prostate suffers in silence, burning under the weight of invisible pressure. Here, buried in the shadows of history, lies a forgotten story, a side quest almost erased from memory. In the early 1990s, a small team of researchers in Eastern Europe conducted an experiment with older men, most over 60. They divided them into two groups. One group lived as usual. The other added two changes: daily pelvic movements and carefully timed hydration. Small amounts during the day, none before bed. The results stunned them. Symptoms of BPH dropped. Risk markers for prostate cancer diminished. Even energy levels improved. And all of this in just weeks. But the study was published in a minor journal, quickly eclipsed. Why? Because at that very moment, pharmaceutical companies were releasing their new prostate drugs. Expensive, lifelong prescriptions worth billions. What chance did a few free exercises and simple hydration guidelines have against that? Soon after, whispers spread that the researchers had been pressured into silence. Interviews hinted at warnings, at funding that vanished, at careers that would be ruined if they pushed too hard. The message was clear. Truth that doesn't profit must be buried. And buried it was. The findings slipped into dusty archives, cited occasionally in obscure footnotes, but never given the light they deserved. Meanwhile, men everywhere continued to suffer. They woke each night to a burning urgency. They endured swollen glands, restless sleep, fatigue, despair, all while the answer lay hidden, erased by interests greater than their suffering. The conclusion is chilling. Neglecting movement and mistiming hydration is not just laziness or forgetfulness. It is surrendering to forces that thrive on silence. The sedentary body and the chaotic glass of water are silent weapons. They build no scars, no dramatic signs, only small inconveniences that men dismiss as nothing. And that dismissal is the trap, because while you ignore them, they are destroying you. The second and third hidden habits expose a disturbing truth. Destruction is not only in what you eat, it's in how you live, in the hours you spend motionless, in the nights you fracture with thoughtless choices. These enemies look harmless, ordinary. That is why they are lethal. But what you have heard so far is only part of the puzzle, because there exists an enemy even more insidious. One that does not live in your muscles or in your bladder, but in your mind. It leaves no scars on the skin. It cannot be measured in blood tests or seen on scans. And yet, it wages war every single day, reshaping your body from within. The fourth hidden habit, the one that thrives behind your forehead, that poisons your sleep, that accelerates every other danger. When you discover what it truly means, you will understand why so many men lose the battle, even after changing their diets, their movement, their water. Stay with me. because this enemy may already be inside you. The fourth hidden habit cannot be chewed or swallowed. It doesn't sit on a plate or swirl in a glass. It hides in a realm you cannot touch, yet it sculpts destruction into the body all the same, the mind. Chronic stress is a poison without taste or color, dripped into your veins in invisible doses, day after day, until it becomes a flood. Men wear it like armor, convinced it's part of life. But that armor is rusted and cracked, and the poison seeps through. Each anxious thought, each restless breath, each sleepless night releases cortisol. And cortisol, when it never leaves, corrodes the body like acid. The prostate is one of its favored victims. Under the constant assault of stress, the gland swells, constricts, inflames. A man who lives under tension never truly rests. He may close his eyes, but his mind keeps racing. Debts unpaid, mistakes remembered, fears of what tomorrow holds. His body never shuts down the alarms. And so the prostate, already vulnerable, becomes the battlefield. What began as a quiet worry now translates into nights fractured by urgency, streams weaker than ever, pain that refuses to ease. What makes this enemy crueler is its invisibility. Stress is not something you can hold in your hand, point to on a scan, or measure with certainty in a test. It hides behind fatigue, irritability, and the quiet despair that builds in men who feel betrayed by their own bodies. Many dismiss it until it has already hollowed them out. Stress is not just mental anguish, it is fuel poured onto the fire of inflammation. Research shows what men rarely hear. Cortisol, when constant, disrupts testosterone balance, increases oxidative stress, and weakens immune defenses. In simple terms, it opens the gates. The prostate, exposed to this biochemical storm, begins to falter. The man who ignores his mind's torment is, without knowing it, accelerating his body's collapse. And yet stress rarely comes alone. It drags companions, sleeplessness, poor choices, broken relationships. Think of the man who snaps at his children, who isolates himself because he cannot handle more pressure. His isolation fuels more stress, which inflames his body further. It is a downward spiral, one that leaves scars unseen but deeply felt. The prostate becomes not only a physical gland under siege, but a symbol of a life narrowing into fear, fatigue, and silence. Still, there is another enemy, one quieter, but just as dangerous. The fifth habit is not an action, but an omission, the neglect of natural nutrients. The earth has always provided quiet weapons: zinc from pumpkin seeds, lycopene from tomatoes ripened under sunlight, resveratrol from grapes, catechins from green tea, selenium from nuts. These molecules, tiny but potent, reduce inflammation, shield DNA from damage, support hormonal balance, and strengthen immunity. They are foot soldiers in a war most men don't even realize they are fighting. But these allies are absent from the modern plate. Instead, diets are built from hollow foods, stripped of meaning. Bread without minerals, meat swollen with hormones, vegetables robbed of nutrients by poor soil and pesticides. Men eat until they are full, but starve at the cellular level. The body, left defenseless, watches as the prostate absorbs the damage day after day. Why is this truth ignored? Because it cannot be patented. No corporation grows rich from pumpkin seeds. No empire is built on tomatoes. But fortunes are made on pharmaceuticals that soothe symptoms without ever touching the root. And so the silence persists. Knowledge that could shield men is buried under advertisements for quick fixes. A handful of seeds could help more than a handful of pills, but only one fills the pockets of the powerful. Imagine two men of the same age. One spends decades ignoring nature's gifts. He eats processed food, sits in silence, swallows his stress, drowns in sugar and fat. The other, though imperfect, moves his body each day, breathes through storms, eats seeds and fruits filled with protective compounds. Both start from the same place. But decades later, one wakes chained to the bathroom, humiliated by urgency and pain, while the other still stands with dignity, his prostate calmer, his nights freer. The difference is not chance. It is choice, repeated, invisible, compounded into destiny. The fourth and fifth habits together reveal the most unsettling truth. Prostate destruction is not only mechanical, not only chemical, it is psychological, existential. The body and mind are tied together in a vicious knot. Stress feeds inflammation. Inflammation ruins sleep. Lack of sleep magnifies stress. Meanwhile, nutrients absent from the diet mean the body has no defense. The cycle tightens like a noose, slowly, relentlessly, until a man feels he cannot breathe. You now know the 5 hidden habits: the inflammatory diet, the sedentary trap, chaotic hydration, chronic stress, and the neglect of natural nutrients. 5 enemies that seem ordinary but together form a conspiracy. They do not simply add together, they amplify one another, multiplying their damage. The prostate is not destroyed in a straight line. It is undone in an explosion of interconnected forces, each pushing the other deeper, darker, further. And yet even now, I have not told you everything. There is one final truth, a missing piece that binds all of these habits into one machine. Because there exists a threshold, a secret limit, an invisible line your body cannot cross without consequence. Many men cross it every day, believing they are safe, but once it is crossed, there is no going back. That threshold will not show up in your blood tests. It will not appear on an ultrasound. It is marked instead by subtle signs. So subtle, most men laugh them off. Nights broken more often than before. A dull heaviness that lingers. An ache that seems too small to matter. These are not random inconveniences. They are the body's whispers, its final warnings. Ignore them and you step into the red zone without realizing it. And that breaking point is what I will reveal in the conclusion. The truth that explains why some men fight back and survive, while others, despite every effort, collapse into despair. Stay with me, because the next revelation may be the last chance you have to choose freedom over pain, control over chaos, life over slow destruction. You have now uncovered the 5 hidden habits, those ordinary choices that seem harmless, but together build an invisible cage around the prostate. An inflammatory diet, a sedentary life, chaotic hydration, chronic stress, neglect of nature's nutrients. Each one is dangerous, but the truth I must leave you with is darker still. The real destroyer is not any single habit. It is the accumulation, the repetition, the weight of years pressing down like stone until the body can no longer bear it. The prostate does not collapse in a single day. It remembers every toxic meal, every hour frozen in stillness, every glass of water at the wrong time, every sleepless night of stress, every missing seed, fruit, or leaf. They are entries in a secret book written in your own cells. And when that book finally opens, the verdict is merciless. The bomb did not appear suddenly. You built it, brick by brick, year by year. And here is the final revelation. The secret threshold I spoke of is not a number on a blood test. It is not a scan. It is not a diagnosis. It is the invisible line your body crosses when the whispers turn to screams. When the nightly wake-ups are no longer rare but constant. When the dull ache becomes your daily companion, when the weight in your lower body refuses to leave, that is the red line. And most men do not realize they have crossed it until there is no way back. Think carefully. Your body is not punishing you. It is warning you. But we are trained to ignore it, to call the signs just age, to dismiss the pain as nothing serious. These excuses are the most lethal poison of all. They lull you into silence while the bomb ticks faster. The disaster happens not because the body betrayed you, but because you refused to listen. This is the truth most will never hear. It is not the doctor who decides whether you are safe. It is not a piece of paper with numbers. It is your ability to listen to your own signals while they are still soft, still reversible. That is what separates the man who still has a future from the one who has only regrets. And yet, there is still hope. Because the same 5 habits that destroy can also defend. Change the food and you turn poison into fuel. Move your body and you bring blood back to the forgotten places. Hydrate wisely and you turn sabotage into balance. Breathe, calm the storm in your mind, and the gland quiets with you. Feed yourself with seeds, fruits, and leaves, and you rebuild the shield nature always meant you to carry. These are not miracles. They are choices, and choices, when repeated, can disarm the bomb before it explodes. So if you have stayed with me until this point, it means you are not willing to be one of the millions of men who discover too late that their prostate has been crying for years. Make a pact with yourself now. Write in the comments, "I will not cross the line." These words are not decoration. They are a declaration of war against ignorance, against resignation, against the habits that have been stealing your future in silence. And subscribe now. Activate the notifications. Because what you have heard today is only the beginning. There are still truths buried deeper, secrets that most will never dare to tell. If you want to be among the few who hear them before it's too late, you must stay here, awake, prepared, because in the end, the choice is yours. On one side lies freedom, on the other, pain. Which side of the line will you stand on?